Hi and welcome. You're watching this video because you're looking for more energy. Hi, I'm Dr. Lynch and I'm going to talk to you about our energy recovery program. So this program is recommended for people who kind of wake up in the morning and they just don't have the energy to get through the day. Maybe you have a sleepless nights and tired days. You can kind of take a nap sometime during the middle of the day. Oftentimes there's brain fog involved with this. We'll see people with maybe some poor digestion, mood swings, can create some anxiety. So what do we do about that when you have those type of conditions? Well, we have a program in our office where we actually address several different areas which could be affecting you. Now the first area that we look at is actually right at the base of the skull right here where that top vertebra sits. C1, also called the atlas, can misalign and it can create neurovascular compression. And the reason that that's important for energy is because all the cells in your body basically run on two things, and that's glucose and oxygen. And if you're not getting enough oxygen up to the brain, it's going to affect you. So this is one of the areas that we're going to be looking at. Another area that we look at is whether or not you're digesting all of your foods. Now, the antacid industry in the United States is a $40 billion industry. So if you think that you probably have too much acid in your stomach and that's the problem that you're dealing with, then you've been watching the right amount of TV, because that's not actually the case. The lower esophageal sphincter, or the LES, is the little flap that opens and closes at the top of your stomach. And what happens is when you get enough acidic content, the LES will close. That little flap at the top of the stomach closes, and now you can digest your food. But we've all been told that we have too much acid, so don't eat spicy foods. Don't eat anything acidic. Take these pills and take this purple pill. Those things don't help. What the problem is we need to have enough acid in our stomach. With 7 being a neutral, we need to be around 3.5 for that LES, or that little flap, to close so that we can break down our food. Because if it's not, you're not going to break down your food. You're not going to be able to take in and absorb those vitamins and minerals, even if you're supplementing for them. So I see patients come in here all the time and they bring this big bag of supplements and saying, I'm taking all this stuff and I still feel terrible. And then when we find out that they're not digesting their food, I tell them it doesn't really matter how good your supplements are. If you're not going to break them down, then that stuff is just going to pass through you and you're basically not going to get what you need. With the proper amount of HCl in the gut, the proper level, you'll break down your food, you'll get the nutrients out to the rest of your body that previously you're basically starving yourself by not having the right acidic content there. Another thing that we see with patients is food sensitivities. Now, most people know about an allergy. An allergy is an IgE, or an anaphylactic reaction, which happens immediately after you consume something that you're allergic to. And then you require to go to the emergency room or use an EpiPen. But what I'm referring to are delayed response allergies, which we see measured in the blood through IgG and IgA. And that's how we find these sensitivities, because if you're having food sensitivities that you're unaware of, what's going to happen is you're going to have inflammation. You're going to be creating an inflammatory condition in your body. Now, what does that have to do with energy? If you know how we look for inflammation in the body, one of the ways we do that is through an erythrocyte sedimentation rate, which means that we're looking to see how quickly red blood cells, which imagine them as little donuts, kind of stacking on top of each other. And when they stack on top of each other or clump together, that is what prevents the surface area of those red blood cells from having oxygen on them. So when they're all flattened out like that, you're not going to be able to absorb as much oxygen going through your bloodstream. And like we said earlier, oxygen and glucose are extremely important to your cells so that your body has energy. So if you're dragging through the day and not being able to sleep at night, this is something that you really need to have looked at. And this is one thing that many patients of mine, they've gone to their medical doctor and they said, yeah, I've been checked for wheat or gluten, or they did that celiac test on me. That is a celiac test only. That does not tell you whether or not you have food sensitivities. Ask them if they've tested IgG and IgA on you regarding most of the basic foods. If they have and it's all negative, first I'd be surprised, and second, then you know you're okay, because that's what we test in our office. The other thing that we see is adrenal fatigue. Now, adrenal fatigue, we can look at that in so many different ways, but frequently patients will bring in a saliva hormone test. And basically what you're required to do is you're supposed to put saliva into a tube that gets sent out to a lab, and you do it 4 times during the day. You're going to do it 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll do it at noon, you'll do it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and 8 o'clock at night. And the reason you're doing that is because you're looking at what your cortisol level output is. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, your cortisol level should be at its highest. So your cortisol is getting you up. This is part of your rhythm, your not cardiac rhythm, but your circadian rhythm. So that's what should be getting you jumping up out of bed, and then by noon, that cortisol level should fall a pretty good amount. And then during the rest of the day, it should slowly start to taper off so that your cortisol level is low as you're getting ready to go into bed, so that you get a good night's sleep, wake up the next morning, your cortisol is high, you're ready to go again. I'm going to tell you, when I see these reports that we send out for patients and they come back, oftentimes they're backwards. So we see high cortisol most of the day, and then it drops off later, and it just looks like it's upside down. Frequently, this is coming from blood sugar issues. So patients who are not eating the right things during the right times of the day. And that's what we see, because blood sugar imbalances is one of the biggest stressors on the adrenal system, and not really just the adrenals. That's what everybody refers to it as. It's actually your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenal axis. And that affects many of your other organs as well, like your thyroid. Those are the areas that we'd be looking for to say, now, do we need to supplement these areas while we try to correct the problem of blood sugar imbalances? And we'll talk to you about proper diet, what to eat and when. A good example is understanding your sugars versus your proteins and your fats, and knowing how those are like different types of fuel sources. One burns out really fast and it burns really bright, and that's your simple sugar carbohydrates. So that's what most people go to during the day. That's mostly what people have for breakfast, and it gives you that instant energy, but it also drops off really quickly, and it has you kind of creating a sugar craving or carbohydrate craving immediately afterwards, because you're looking for that instant energy. And if you were making a fire, you need to build your kindling, and then you start building up from there and adding things to that fire so it builds. You can't just get kindling going and throw a big log on it. You got to work up to it. So you need to learn how to eat during the course of a day to support the rest of your body. Because when we do that, I see patients who get their energy back. They come in, they tell me they're sleeping better, they don't have mood swings, their cravings go away, and they start having energy. And these are the same people who are telling me, I slept all day, my family came to visit me in my room, and then they would leave and I'd just go back to bed. They're back to exercising or going to the gym. They're getting their lives back. And that's what excites me about helping patients with this, is because we can do this naturally, get your body back on track, and get your life back. I'm Dr. Keith Lynch. I look forward to helping you. Take care.